How about that? 76ers find a way to win another game. 2 in a row. Watch out now. 135-114, where they took down the team with the second worst record in the NBA, but we won't let that get in the way of a good story here now, will we? Hello, everybody. Sixers wrap-up show coming your way live. Three-way action. I am Sean Brace, Sean Barnard in the middle, Sam Oshtry holding down the fort on the end of the screen. Boys, I joke about it. Bottom line is you had to find a way to win another game here, and they did exactly that. There's a lot to like, including, we'll start with this. Great to have the big man back in uniform. Yes. This is Sixers wrap-up show powered by 97.5 The Fanatic. Let's get after it. Again, a beatdown, but a much-needed beatdown, of course. That's number one, but great to have the big man back out on the floor. Sean Barnard, start with you.
Yeah, 100%. It's great to just physically see him out there playing basketball, moving like the Joel Embiid that we hope. I thought he certainly needs to play his way into shape a little bit, but ultimately, as far as the polish from basketball skill-wise, I thought he looked pretty good tonight. Tyrese Maxey on another level, just hearing the music, hearing the whispers of all the frustration that is coming out, taking it on the chest, and just absolutely putting forth a dominant performance. I think there's a lot of good to get into tonight. I know it's the Indiana Pacers, but sometimes this team just needs to step on opponent's neck, and they really struggled in that category, so it's good to see it tonight.
Hey, look, like I said, games, it's about winning games now. They got to find a way to win games. So I'm not going to poo-poo this by no means, but there is something to be said about a team that's going out there trying to lose, right? Like, there's no denying that the Indiana Pacers are trying to tank, correct?
Sure. Adam Silver sure thinks so. Has made that quite clear.
You're exactly right. All right, well, let's get to the good. Enough of that. Sam, I'm going to come to you, man. I know we're going to talk a little bit about our play of our games, and, of course, we got a stat of the game. Mix that in. For all the people out there that are watching, please comment, get involved in the conversation. But just the general big picture for you, Sam Oshtry, coming away from that victory for the Sixers over the Pacers is what?
It's one of those games where when you see Joel Embiid play there after missing for 5 games, you're kind of just watching him move the whole time. That's all I'm looking at. The Pacers are awful. The Sixers defense was really bad in that first half. We can get to that type of stuff and kind of some of the minutia from the game, but I'm just watching Joel Embiid, how he's moving. And he was moving pretty well considering he missed 5 games and was out. And there was an all-star break in there too, so he was out for like 2.5 weeks. And I thought he was moving well, especially in his second shift. Came out, was kind of tired in the beginning. You see him put his hands on his knees a lot, but that's to be expected. He'll get his conditioning back if he continuously plays. I thought he was moving well on the perimeter, both defensively, switching on to guards, offensively, getting into his midi pull-up. Laterally, he was moving pretty well. He was getting on the floor for some tough finishes around the rim. I thought he looked good. Yeah, really bad opponent. But when you're talking about all that matters for the Sixers the rest of the season is Joel Embiid's health. He looked pretty healthy to me.
Yeah, we were talking pregame about whether or not this would be a good spot to get him in. And I think we can all agree that, get him in there, get the blood flowing, get 25 minutes. Of course, this should be an easy victory. It's a good spot. But there is also the other way of looking at it. Like, it's another game of rest if they did not play him tonight. And that's kind of like where I was. Now, I understand, and ultimately where we're at right now, they made the right call. Get him in there. He played 26 minutes. Let's see here. 26 minutes, finished with 27, 11 of 17, 1 of 4 from downtown, 4 of 5 from the free throw line, 6 rebounds, had 5 assists, 4 turnovers, 1 block, really balled out. And to the bigger picture, just from my I'll let you know what my stat of the game is they dominated them down low as far as in the paint was concerned. Points in the paint, 76ers 82-52 over the Pacers here tonight. So Sean Barnard, Joel Embiid back in a big way, making his presence felt, of course, down low.
Yeah, 100% there. And we know this team is going to go as far as Joel Embiid can take them. That's become evidently clear in this stretch without him. And it was to just see him physically on the court. You see how each of these guys are able to settle into what their proper role is when he is the headline act here. The guy like Kelly Oubre Jr. doesn't look overexposed when there is the gravity of Joel Embiid. Guy like VJ Edgecombe, every bucket looks easier when he's cutting off it. Tyrese Maxey certainly felt a little bit less attention on him and was able to the offense for that very reason. So even whatever version of Joel Embiid he is, it just changes the way other defenses defend the Sixers team, and it opens everything up for them. So I think it was good to see him out there. This certainly was the ramp-up game before we lock in for 2 important games against the Heat and Celtics to close out this week, but really good to just see him up and moving again.
Yeah, look, you got 3 games on the road. They took 2 of 3. It started off on a bad foot down in New Orleans, of course, an embarrassing loss there, but bounced back in a big way with the T-Wolves game where Maxey goes off for 39. And then to Sean's point, Sam, he goes for 32. And it's funny because one of my big points on Monday on the Fanatic was to Ray Dome was like, if that's what is going to be needed for the Sixers to find a way to win a game, I just don't know how much we can bank on Maxey scoring 40 plus. Is he capable? Yeah. But my man went deep and comes back with a 39-point performance in that game against the T-Wolves to find a way to win a game. They did there. But, of course, all that goes out the window when you get Joel Embiid back on the floor.
It was a reminder, not that we've needed a reminder because we've seen Joel Embiid play enough. We've seen him play enough with Tyrese Maxey. But it was a reminder how much easier these shots come for Tyrese Maxey when he's on the floor with Joel Embiid. And he still didn't shoot the ball well tonight, 10 for 22, 2 for 8 from 3. But the shots that he gets and how much more open he is so obvious when you see him play alongside Joel Embiid. They are really one of the deadliest pick and roll duos in the entire league. And it's for all these guys. Kelly Oubre made 2 threes tonight. He's getting more open shots when he's playing alongside Joel Embiid. And Sean said the word, it's the gravity of Embiid, of how much attention he commands from a defense. Because if you don't pay attention to him, he'll go and score over a point a minute on you like he did tonight. 27 points in 26 minutes. So VG Edgecombe, Kelly Oubre, Tyrese Maxey, all these guys benefit so much, but especially Maxey, who you can say he's been tired for most of the season and he's had to play a ton of minutes and he leads the NBA in scoring. But these shots have come really difficult for him over the last 5 games without Joel Embiid. And it's just hard when all the defensive attention is on him and there's not a true other creator on the team, especially without Paul George. But now you bring Joel Embiid back into the mix, and it's just the shots are so much easier for everybody else. So I know people are going to say that this game means nothing. It's the Pacers, whatever. And that's probably true in the grand scheme of things. But it's also true that it was so obvious how much better everybody is when Joel Embiid's on the floor with them.
Maxey leading minutes per game in the NBA. Is that what you meant?
Points. No, he's leading points.
Correct.
Points per game.
Luka is.
Luka's at 32.
Am I tripping that he's not number 1 in points in the NBA?
No, he maybe total points.
Luka
is definitely first.
Total points.
He's number 1 in total points in the NBA. Wow. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
it's interesting. I don't know.
He is in minutes for sure. Yeah.
Is he number 1 in minutes? That's crazy.
Let me fact check that, but I'm pretty.
I don't. What does that matter if he leads? I guess it matters. It means something, but I would look to the average, right? The average.
But that's the thing that. It kind of shows how much he's played and how much he's had to play for this team, that his total points are above everybody else in the league.
Fair. No, hey, look, number 1 is number 1, right? Like average or points scored total, like you're still number 1. This is just a heck of a season. And, it's crazy because, like, where I stand and my thoughts on Maxey all along was like I was a huge supporter and believed in the kid. And I was about as high as it possibly could get. And then he even went higher than what my expectation was. So to see what he's been able to do this year, become a starting all-star in, this year's game, it's like, I'm not trying to put the ceiling on the kid by no means, but right here, right now, the expectation or the ask that he goes out there and gives you 39, and that's the only way that they're going to find a way to win a game, albeit he is still right around that mark, 32, 29, whatever it was in losses. It's still just a jump up that I don't think I'm comfortable getting there. But all that goes out the window when you have a roster around him, when you have players that can help you out. And it starts and ends with the big man. Of course, we know that Paul George will be coming back with the final 10 games of the regular season. VJ, though, I do want to shine the light on him real quick, and then we'll get into some comments. We got some good comments coming over here, and we will also get into our player of the game. And raise your hand if you have somebody other than Maxey.
I'll get creative. I won't go with the pack.
Yeah, get creative. Yeah, because it was easy for me. And there's a reason why I picked him. But bottom line is VJ Edgecombe. I think this was his 15th game, 20-plus points scoring, and where we just, again, continue to talk about the team and when they're able to put it together. But VJ's been his road dog. Like, he's been right next to him this whole time. So what a rookie season it's been able to watch him play, but really at this type of level, Sean.
Yeah, I think it's really impressive how his role kind of changes on a night-to-night basis for what he's asked to do or how he can impact winning. That's not a trait that happens to a lot of rookies. That generally that guys are going to play their game, play their style, do what they're best at. For VJ, there's nights where he is taking the scoring load, like tonight, pouring in 23, like the Timberwolves game where he's knocking down 6 threes. He's also scaled up his impact on the boards at a really high rate, pulled in 7 rebounds today, and it feels like the tough rebounds are ones that he comes up with, and that's definitely a trait that the Sixers need. The ones that he has to sky and get up for. VJ Edgecombe's really the only guy capable of pulling down those type of rebounds on the Sixers team. His playmaking, I thought, was really solid. Defensively, I thought it was really solid. Another guy that I think just really benefits from the gravity, once again, of Joel Embiid, when he's not asked to do too much, like when it is just him and Maxey running the show, you start to see him kind of, punching up his weight class a little bit. Tonight is when he's at his best, and it was cool to see that this, the cohesion of all these guys together.
VJ Edgecombe performance tonight, Sam Oshtry.
Yeah, it was incredible. And this is kind of what you expect, which is absurd because you look at all the other rookies in the NBA, and I guess Con Knippel is playing for a good team now, but the rest of them don't have that type of pressure because their teams don't rely on them to win like that. Like Cooper, Flag. I mean, Dylan Harper to an extent, but he's not. He comes off the bench. He's not one of their best players. So all these other rookies, and most rookies who just come into the league, you come into bad franchises and you've allowed time to kind of mature. And VJ Edgecombe has not had that time. He's had to be a great player immediately, and that's what he's done, which is more impressive than anything. I mean, the shooting we didn't think was going to be this good, this quick, but there's so many different aspects to his games that's so impressive. But to make an impact this quickly, when Paul George, one of your best players, is suspended for 25 games, Joel Embiid is in and out of the lineups. They need you to be their second best player or third best player consistently every night. And for the most part, he hasn't hit that rookie wall. And we got to hope it won't come ever, but he really hasn't hit that rookie wall. And he's been as impressive as almost any Sixer, really.
Yeah. All right. We got 76er TTP is firing away. He said, let's go to the comments here. Get you involved in the conversation. Sixers wrap-up show. Sean Bray, Sean Bernard, Sam Oshtry. You can't take anything from this game other than what they did what it's supposed to do. Business as usual. To read into it anything more would be a mistake. Let's see what they look like versus Miami. That's definitely the macro view. No one's here to argue that, right?
Yeah, but like, you wanted to see Joel Embiid back healthy, moving well, and see him playing with his teammates again, because that matters. Obviously, this game means nothing for the grand scheme of things, but number one, you have to start racking up wins to avoid the play-in. And Embiid needs reps out there with all these guys, obviously no PG, but with everybody else when we get to the playoffs. So every rep in every game is important, even though, it means nothing. Nobody's going to call them a contender for beating the awful Pacers, but every game's important at this point.
And this will come off a bit offensive here as the Pacers are still an NBA team, but it reminds me a little bit of barely. But it reminds me a little bit of like in college when we used to do walkthroughs before games, and it would drive me crazy of like, why am I here? We're literally just walking through, not playing any sort of level of competition, but it's still important to like run your sets, figure out where everybody's supposed to be, get the actual like experience of these guys learning to play off each other, running the plays that are designed. Like they haven't had Embiid for a couple weeks now to kind of settle back into that before you go against teams and games that you need to win. I do think that is important.
Yeah, look, and just still trying to figure out whose role is what. And I guess, you're tinkering from time to time, trying to add some new things in there. And, oh, by the way, to TTP's point, and I'm going to get into it just a second. Yeah, it's not like they're allowed to change up what they're going to do, right? I know that they're somewhat committed with only the players or limited with only the players that they have, but you never know what type of wrinkle they're going to throw. So you're going to have to adjust that. And go off of that. And to his next point, where he said, look, Spo's going to play that Miami zone to make it tough for Joel, get in the paint, need Justin Edwards get a look next game. Wofford's minutes driving him nuts. Putting the Wofford stuff to the side, it's just like, again, these teams, like Rick Carlisle's a great coach over there.
Yeah, he doesn't have much to work with.
No.
Rick, he is a great coach, so I certainly don't think this season sticks to him by any means. I agree with the overall point. Like, they'll obviously are going to face tougher defenses, and Eric Spoelstra can scheme up ways to defend Joel Embiid as well as anyone in the league. That he's in the kind of that same tier as Nick Nurse once was for a guy that just consistently bothers Joel in the way that he does play defense on him right there. The Justin Edwards point I do think is a little interesting. That's a guy that's fallen out of favor. I was surprised to see any sort of Trendon Watford action tonight. That's a guy I thought had kind of played his way to the sideline, especially after he fouled on the half-court heave right before halftime there, like worst foul of the season type stuff. So I do think Watford's time is going. I'm curious if Edwards does get some wrong. I just haven't seen it from him.
I think it was interesting that Watford actually was reinserted into the starting lineup, or not to the starting lineup, into the rotation this game after not playing last game. And that's something we talked about, Barnard, which was that when Embiid's not there, I don't think Nick Nurse really sees a use in Trent Watford. He likes pairing him alongside Embiid and kind of can see what they can do together. But when Embiid's not playing, I don't really think he sees any use in Trent Watford. It also is an interesting point about the Heat zone. You kind of think back to that playing game 2 seasons ago where they went zone for long stretches, and who was the savior of that game? It was Nick Batum, who was incredible and shot the lights out of the ball. Sixers kind of don't have that that kind of valve, if you want to call it, as a shooter against their zone, because that's what you need. And Paul George, you think about what value he would bring against a team like the Heat, right? And we're really looking ahead to the next matchup now. But a team like
Jared McCain, maybe,
but Paul George, he would get torched defensively. Different conversation. Paul George would be a great option as kind of someone floating around that zone because you want to put Embiid in the middle. And so you don't have that shooting that you would need. Like Kelly Oubre, he's been a good three-point shooter this year, but he's still streaky. Obviously, you don't trust Barlow to be a good three-point shooter. But when Paul George comes back and Barlow goes to the bench, and that Kelly Oubre, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, VG Edgecombe, Joel Embiid starting lineup, that's as good of a starting lineup as you can find really in the East if they're actually playing cohesive style basketball. And that's kind of the shooting that you want to surround Embiid with.
Sixers wrap-up show. Go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say, I do think guys like Jared McCain and Isaiah Joe would be super beneficial in breaking that type of zone, but we'll leave that one to the side. One quick follow-up on your point, though, Sam, is you talked about this last post game about the concept of pairing Trendon Watford and Joel Embiid. I just think, like, in the wider scale, I always view it as the more shooters you can get around Joel, the better. And Watford is not that. Like, I even kind of like the action with Barlow, who's also a non-shooter, but a guy that attacks the rim at a high rate. Why do you like the Watford and Embiid pairing so much?
Well, a couple of reasons. If you play him with a 4, I think he's decent in the dunker spot. Like Dominic Barlow didn't do anything tonight, but he's pretty good in the dunker spot. Trent Watford also, we've seen some clips and some possessions where he's run as the pick and roll ball handler, and Joel Embiid has come off those screens, and he's really good at delivering that ball to Joel Embiid on the roll or in the short roll, whatever it is. He's a really underrated passer. That's one of his best qualities, Watford, if you're really talking about breaking down his game. So if you need him in that role playing alongside Embiid, I think there's value to it.
All right. Once again, Sixers absolutely roll the Indiana Pacers, 135-114. It was a 10-point spread, so you easily cashed there. If you did take the 76ers, and I don't think too many people were out there, pounding the pavement for the Pacers plus 10. But Maxey led the way, 32 points, and that is a heck of a back-to-back performance by Tyrese, going 39-32. Bottom line is Sixers found a way to win games, and that's exactly what they need to do. With that being said, let's talk about our players of the game. And for me, it is absolutely Tyrese Maxey, boys. And what was it, 38-30 at the end of the first quarter? And Maxey and the guys that were out on the floor at that point in time took over. I think they went on a 17-2 run.
22-2.
22-2 run. And
that was without Embiid, too. Embiid wasn't even in the game to start that second quarter.
Yep. And then Maxey had 10 in that run. And that was really all right, could take a little bit of a sigh of relief now, right? Could breathe a little easier here, and you kind of made you feel like that they were going to be on the right side of things. But if the Pacers were able to hang tough throughout that stretch, you never know what you're going to get. Granted, it's an NBA game of runs, don't get me wrong, but that moment in the game led by Tyrese Maxey allowed me to just breathe that much easier. So for that, Maxey, of course, is my player of the game. Sean, your thoughts?
I'm giving a little love to Adem Bona tonight, a guy that I think was pretty instrumental in sparking that 22-2 run. He finished tied with VJ Edgecombe for a team high plus 27 in this matchup. Bona, in his 15 minutes of action, had 6 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, which we do not often see, 2 steals, and a block. One of those rebounds was offensive there, shot 3 of 3 from the field. I thought did his job today, that he was excellent. And that's the best version of a Dembona to me. Whenever he's playing within his box, not trying to do too much, not being a little overly aggressive on the perimeter, when he is that version, he's very effective as a basketball player and really the backup center that the Sixers do need. So I'm pretty in tune with keeping an eye on this backup center battle that Andre Drummond has made his case far more than I thought was going to actually play out that way. So I want to give a little love for a Dembona for having a day.
Write that one down. Over to Sam Oshtry. Play the game for you, sir.
Easy answer is Tyrese Maxey or Joel Embiid. I'm not going to go with either of those guys. Let's show some love to Quentin Grimes, who is hated by this fan base, partly because of the McCain trade, playing really well after the All-Star break, averaging 15 points in the 4 games after the break, shooting 44% from 3. He had 7 assists against Minnesota the other night. He's showing exactly what the Sixers need from him in the second unit. And in the lineups where Tyrese Maxey's out and he's playing alongside BG Edgecombe, he's showing his playmaking, his creation ability. He's making open shots right now from 3. He's diming the ball pretty well. Like, this is a good Quentin Grimes stretch, and this is exactly what he was kind of doing earlier in the season, and then he had a really bad 2 months, but he's back to playing good basketball, and this is what the Sixers need from him as a second unit guy. So obviously wasn't the best player of the game, but when we're giving it to some non-stars tonight, Quentin Grimes deserves some love.
All right, we'll bring up our stat of the game coming up here in just a second. But both of you boys, man, I'll tell you what, you guys love to just rile up the timeline. I got Sean Barnard talking about how Tyrese Maxey was being so disrespected, and now you're telling me Quentin Grimes, Maxey was not being disrespected. Come on.
Sure was.
Who was he being disrespected by?
Because people were saying that he is not going to be Kobe right now at this point in time of his career. Is that the big takeaway there? The fact that people are saying that he needs to be that 1A alpha player, and if he's not, that this team is going to compete for a championship. That was disrespectful.
Kinda, yeah. Like, that's kind of the theme. This is the way that I would sum it up when it comes to Tyrese Maxey, is that there's 2 different categories of players in terms of floor raisers and ceiling raisers. Maxey, I think, is absolutely a ceiling raiser. That's a dude that put him in big moments, have him as whether it's the co-star or the main guy, that he can elevate that team to winning in the big spots. I don't think it's true that you just put whatever roster around him and that's a guaranteed good team. And say what you want about Joel Embiid, it does not matter who the other 4 guys have been on the court throughout his career. That's a team that's going to win 45 plus games and be in the playoffs. That's just been true throughout his career. Now, there's very few guys that fit that category right there. Tyrese Maxey's not quite one of those guys, but I've certainly seen his feet held to the fire for the way that they have dropped some of these past games with Joel Embiid sideline.
I think a lot of people have been, understanding of that. Maxey is doing everything he possibly could. And even in the bad games, he's still scoring 29. Even in the games that he's off shooting, he's 4 of 11. He still tallies up 31 points. It's that was my big takeaway from the T-Wolves game. I'm like, man, you can't expect this guy right now at this point in time of his career. Maybe next year I'm saying something different. Like I said, I'm not putting the ceiling on him anymore. I'm done telling you that this is what Tyrese Maxey is going to be, because he's proven everybody wrong year in and year out, right? So maybe next year he's able to raise that average. I don't know. Maybe he'll be number 1 in the league.
By the way, part of this is me wearing this too, because I'm the dude who stood up here, pumped my chest, and talked about this is a top 10 player in the NBA. This is a guy who has a case for the best guard in the Eastern Conference. So if I think those things and still feel that way, I have to be critical when he's not delivering to that type of standard. And that's sort of how it's been this past stretch. It wasn't that way tonight. It was good to see it again. And he's been excellent in the wider scale of the season, but wanted to give a little bit of love to it.
And we hate Quentin Grimes. Come on, Sam.
Part of it,
yeah, that's great.
Quentin Grimes played well. You're giving it to Adem Bona. What do you?
But you said that we hate him because he was in front of Jared McCain.
That's part of it. That the fan base's outrage once the McCain trade happened, it was directed towards Quentin Grimes. You're like, all right, you're relying on this guy to be your backup guard, and he's been pretty well since then, at least since the All-Star break. But part of the Maxey thing too is that there's been 4 games. He played well for 4 games.
The last 2 games
he's averaging 15 in his last 4 games and shooting 44% from 3. That's all you want from him. Obviously, it's a very small sample size, but that's all you want from him. You can't really ask much more.
I also watched him shoot 39% from the field in a 2-month sample size before that.
He had a bad 2-month stretch.
Field.
He had a bad 2-month stretch for sure. I would say the Hawks game he played well too. He had 14 points. And it was 2 for 4 from 3 for everybody who's saying 2 games. I will say too, the part of the Max conversation is the guards in the East are so unbelievable right now. We don't have to discuss this at the moment, but there was a list of where you would rank the guards, and this included some guys in the West, but it was Ant Edwards, Cade Cunningham, Tyrese Maxey, Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Jaylen Brown. Obviously, Jaylen Brown's more of a forward, but his usage rate is absurd, and he's playing like a guard. And it's like the guards/wings across the NBA right now are so absurd that it's hard to even put Maxey in that like top 4 or 5, even though he's playing amazingly. So he might be stuck on the All-NBA third team, even though this should be like a second team, potential first team type season that he's having.
All right, let's get into the box score, team stats, anything, a player, a stat, a run, whatever it may be, but give us the stat of the evening. I already told you mine, and it was very evident when you watched the game. They were just dominating, especially points in the paint, 82-52. That's going to get the job done across the board. And, oh, by the way, like I said, when you go ahead and get numbers like Maxey finishing with 32, Joel Embiid 27, Edgecombe giving you a 23, tallying up those 3 box scores together just as far as points scored. I was going to throw that one out there as well. 3-headed monster coming your way, but I'll stick with the points in the paint. Sean Barnard?
Yeah, the stat I'm rolling with, and it got a little bit diluted in that second half as it slipped into garbage time. So I'm going to use the first half stat only. But out of the first 27 made field goals by the Sixers, 18 assists on them. That's a much higher rate than we were accustomed to seeing with this team. The ball was popping. Everything fell into place the right way. Embiid using the double teams properly, kicking out the shooters. It just felt like the right concept of team basketball, which I do think this team has become too isolation-centric at stretches. Did not feel that way whatsoever tonight, and I do think that stat indicates that.
Second straight game with over 30 assists for the Sixers. They hadn't had an over 30 assist game since February 5th. So it had been a long stretch when they were struggling to move the ball and struggling to make shots. But again, we talk about Joel Embiid and his presence. A big part of that is just he creates so many shots for other guys, and he's a great passer too. I mean, he had a great dime to Maxey tonight, a nice dime to Watford. So he was contributing to that too. I'm going to go with the third quarter stat again. And the stat is 31-20. The Sixers outscored the Pacers in the third quarter. And now this is 3 out of 4 games where the Sixers have outscored their opponent in the third quarter. That's their best stretch of the season. And it might be the Pacers. It might have been the Wolves the other night, missing a couple key guys. But still, you got to start winning third quarters. That's so important as they kind of make a playoff push and get into the playoffs this year. And they're starting to do it. So it's a good trend.
Absolutely. No, there's no denying that whatsoever. Some other stats here, 44-41 as far as total rebounds are concerned, 29-27 as far as assists are concerned. Sixers took that one. Steals 14-8, turnovers 16-13. Pacers had 16 there. Downtown percentage, you need to work a little bit on that one. 27 Sixers finished with 27% from downtown, 30 for the Pacers, and both teams were plus 85% from the free throw line. All right, let's put a bow on this one. It's always fun to talk about a victory, boys. Anything that we missed, Sean, that you want to get off your chest from the Pacers game this evening?
Yeah, no, I think we covered just about all of it in section here. The backup center battle is something I'm going to be keeping my eye on there. Quiet Dominic Barlow game who did not attempt a shot. I do wonder if there's a little bit of Dom Barlow fading, and if that starts to be, indicated with the minutes there as we get returning to full health. Paul George will certainly make a push. Kelly Oubre Jr. certainly has a conversation for that starting lineup as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how that mixes. I would say it's been a little bit since I felt like we've had an awesome Dominic Barlow game. So a little bit of a storyline to monitor there.
We got to set up a Paul George tracker. I forget how many games exactly it is left. 16? Do we know?
16, I think.
16 left. He's only set 9.
I believe so. Or
I think there's 20. There's 23 games left in the regular season.
All right, so 13 left then. He returns with 10 games left in the season.
Correct. Let me make sure my math is correct on because I thought I heard Kate say that.
Going.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this starting lineup, and it's a shame they still haven't got a ton of reps together. What was the number in terms of the amount of games that Maxey, Paul George, and Embiid have actually played together? It's very few. It's like 30-something or in the 40s. It's still not a lot of games, so they're going to need those reps. But this starting lineup, when healthy, and we only got one game of Joel Embiid, so I'm not saying the guy's back for good, but when healthy, this is a starting lineup that can compete with the best of them in the East. And I'm not saying they're going to beat any of these other teams, contenders in the playoff series, but just the starting lineup and the talent that they have out there and that starting five, it's as good as really any in the East.
Yeah.
We got 24 games left right now. So, like 14. I said, 14 more without Paul George, as he'll be rested and ready to go. Final 10 games of the regular season. It could be the gift from above. It really could.
That he's going to be healthy?
It's way too early to go down that road, and we're all a little bit frustrated, too, with the fact that he did get popped, and he's missing a good chunk of change here. But all in all, if this team is able to win games, plural, and find themselves in that 5 seed, 6 seed, anything but the play-in, and Paul George is back for the final 10, I think I would have signed off on that. Just, like, hold up. We're not there yet. We're not not at all. All right, let's talk about the Miami Heat here. Speaking of standings and anything you guys want to throw in there, because I know we were talking pre-show and just saying, like, yes, it's important to update. But right now, Sixers are 32-26. That's good for the 6th seed. The Magic are 30-26. That's good for the 7th seed. And the Miami Heat, who will be coming to Xfinity Mobile Arena for an 8:30 tip on Thursday evening, are at 31-27. I think they only played one time back in November so far this year, if I'm not mistaken. And Miami got the best of the 76ers in that one. So we know what type of talent they have. We know the coaching that they have. But it is intriguing. This is a post-All-Star, post-trade deadline matchup against the Miami Heat. Sean, what are you looking for here?
I'm looking for the Sixers to play their brand of basketball and be the better basketball team, because I do think that they are at full strength with Joel Embiid on the court. This Heat team, they're not pushovers or a game that you can sleepwalk through, but I don't think this is quite the Miami Heat team that we should have the same level of devil magic fear as kind of been the case in past years. That, yes, Jaime Jaquez, a good player. Yes, they have talent. Bam Adebayo can still play. Khalil Ware has nice flashes. There's talent on this roster overall, but I do think the Sixers are the better basketball team, and if they play their brand of basketball, they will win pretty comfortably there. So that's why I think tonight was a good step, just to get back in that direction, getting back to, being in the right spots, everybody filling their role to the full extent there. If they play their brand of basketball, I think the Sixers win pretty comfortably.
Jeez, the Miami Heat last time played was on Saturday night against the Grizzlies.
They're playing right now.
Oh, they on right now? Didn't even look at today. Okay, so they're playing today. Yeah, whoops, I'm an idiot. They're playing the Milwaukee Bucks. They're down by 1, actually, with 8 minutes to go. All right, so last time that they did take the floor was Saturday night against the Grizzlies, 136-120 there at home. So I was like, damn, what am I missing? Why are they – is there a rodeo in Miami? Like what is it USA hockey partying, so everybody's got the week off down there? I don't know. I wasn't sure what the hell was going on. All right, that makes sense. Anyways, I was like, that's going to be an extended break there. Let's make it – Sam, what are you looking for from the Miami Heat and Sixers matchup? First of all, will Joel Embiid be a go?
He better be. He better be. If his knee doesn't react well to this game, where he only played 27 minutes and kind of not a really high stakes game, then it doesn't react well, and he can't play 2 days later, then Sixers are back to being in trouble. So you hope that he's out there. This is a pretty huge matchup. If the Heat win tonight, and like you said, they're neck and neck with the Bucks right now. But if the Heat do win tonight, then that game on Thursday will be for who's the 6th seed. That's what it'll be. So whoever wins that game will be the 6th seed. And if the Sixers lose, they would get pushed down into the playing conversation as the 7th seed. And they'll also play again on March 30th, which will be a huge game because these are the teams that are fighting to avoid the play-in. So this will be a huge matchup. There's a few things. Number one, Heat have a top 5 defense in the league, so their defense has been great. The Sixers offense has to be clicking. They're not going to be able to shoot under 30% from 3 like they did tonight. But Embiid and Maxey have to carry, and B.J. Edgecombe has to shoot the ball well. And you're going to need more contributions from like Dominic Barlow, Jabari Walker, some of these guys off the bench. The other thing for the Heat is Tyler Hero recently came back. He's on a little bit of a minutes restriction, but he's back to playing good basketball. So that's another thing. And the last thing is, The Sixers defense, especially in transition, was terrible tonight. The Heat like to play super fast. They have a really deep bench. They play a ton of guys, a lot of depth, and they just like to play fast. The Sixers have to get back in transition, and their defense with Joel Embiid is usually bad in transition, but they have to find a way to sprint back and prevent easy transition baskets for the Heat. That's going to be one of the keys on Thursday.
Yeah, the only thing that I would throw in is you're right statistically about the defense. They're a bizarre team to look at their stat profile because they play at the quickest pace in the league. They don't run pick and roll basically at all. They just play space the floor and attack it with open lanes as much as possible. Their like points per game is crazy high with their offensive rating pretty low, and then their points allowed, like it's just all over the place because of the pace kind of distorts things. So their efficiency looks good. The numbers kind of don't, is the way that it kind of breaks down.
Little JoJo and Bam matchup. Yeah, Tyler Hero only played in 13 games this season. That is that's a whole lot of missed games there, but he's basically back to what his normal pace is, giving you 21 and a half, but as Sam pointed out, still dealing with a little bit of minutes restriction. And Powell's the guy. Powell is the guy that still puts up numbers there for Miami. Again, they're taking on they're taking on the Milwaukee Bucks right here, right now. 109, 107, 6:20 to go in the fourth. Seeding, though, I'm just curious, is this too early, or should we be paying attention to it a little bit more? Do we need about another 10-game stretch? Like, how much should we be paying attention to the standings, Sean?
I'm not at the point where I'm like actively calculating like what's happening in other games and how it like translates to the Sixers, but direct matchups like this one, like Heat versus Sixers, that's going to be one that matters in the wider scale of things. And we can kind of fast forward and recognize that that's going to stick there. So it's not quite standings watch where I'm itching over the Heat versus Bucks and figuring out what happens there. And will this change the standings at all? But the matchup that is going to be the same general cluster of teams. The Sixers got to find a way to capitalize on those.
Sam, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm paying attention to the standings because I do think it's going to matter. These teams are very much in a cluster. I mean, the Sixers, if Embiid stays healthy and the Sixers start playing well, they could rally off a bunch of wins and somehow move into that 5 spot past the Raptors if they start slipping. But it really feels like the Magic, Heat, Sixers are going to be competing for those 6, 7, 8 seeds and to avoid the play-in. So they're all one game apart right now, especially when you're playing one of those other teams. I think it really matters. And, the Sixers are a team that drops some easy wins. You're going to go through their schedule if they end up in the play-in and be like, how'd they lose to the Nuggets? How'd they lose to the Pelicans on a Saturday night? And just all they're going to be like, if they won 2 more games, they wouldn't even be a conversation for them to be in the play-in. But obviously it's not the case. And if Embiid can stay healthy, this team can rally off a bunch of wins. We saw it in January. But of course, we don't know game to game, week to week, what that status looks like. So I'm paying attention to these standings, even at this point.
One of the easier schedules remaining. You're good. Go ahead.
To follow up on like the play-in point, to me, it's less about being forced to play out of the play-in. It's not like, to me, that's like a you're scared, get a dog situation. Like they can play themselves out of the play-in, but the reward in that situation is you're taking on either the Detroit Pistons or the Boston Celtics. And I just don't love that outlook. If you can stay above that and the 6 seed or climb to 5, and you're talking about a first round matchup with teams like the Knicks, Cavs, or Raptors, I like their chances a whole lot more in a playoff series with each of these teams than either the top of the East. So it's more about that than particularly being forced to scrap out of the play-in to me.
Makes sense. TTP, last call. That's every game. Worst transition defense in the league.
It's true.
It's a point of frustration.
And he's right. Shout out him. I know that he was talking to me on that one. Their transition defense does suck without Joel too. It sucks with him and it sucks without him. It doesn't really matter. Their defense was abysmal in the first half today. They gave up 38 points. And part of that is because they had a ton of live ball turnovers too. So when you're turning the ball over a lot, you're letting them get easy baskets in transition. So they just can't do that against the Heat.
All right, let's go ahead and go NBA around the league rapid fire to close up shop here. I got to put my 6-year-old daughter to sleep. It's dad of the year.
Clock. She's still up?
My wife's in Vegas. What do you want? Wife's in Vegas.
Really?
Yeah, she's out there.
You weren't allowed to go to Vegas. She's allowed to go to Vegas?
It's for work, bro. It's for work. Yeah.
That's what you have to say. It's for work.
So I got the 9-month-old down for the count. Come back, caught the second half. I'm like, you're staying up. So she's upstairs watching something right now. And I'm talking to you guys about the Sixers. NBA, all around the league, wrap up. Here we go. The Cavs, boys. There's no more popular team than the Cleveland Cavaliers for my money as far as hype right here, right now. They've been putting it together. is this a case where we just say, like, so far limited sample size, that, man, maybe James Harden is in a really good position, or do we still feel like it's going to be the same old song and dance once the pressure starts to get packed on here?
Yeah, nothing says we can't get over the playoff hump. What do we do to change that? Bring in James Harden. Like, I've seen this story. I've seen it played out in a million different situations, in situations that I think were better fitting than James Harden than this full Cavs roster.
It's a good Cavs team.
It is, but I got a stat for you right here, Sean Braces. What would you guess the record is for the Cleveland Cavaliers this year against the top teams in the Eastern Conference, the top four? So the Knicks, Celtics, Pistons, and Raptors. They've played 9 games across those 4 teams. What do you think their record is?
You're going to have to add a win to the Knicks because they're killing the Knicks right now.
Yeah, they're smoking them. They're 36-22, so it's obviously, in the way you're phrasing it, what is it, under 500?
Excluding the Knicks one, they are 1-8 against those teams this year. So that'll bring them to 2-9. I guess that's or 2-8. So a little bit better in that conversation. But the point being here is I kind of think this is the team that happens every season that wins a ton of regular season games, but has no actual playoff outlook.
Yeah, it's not a fair stat, Sean. Not a fair stat. You want to know why?
Why? Because James Harden?
James Harden wasn't on the team for most of those games. And I always point to the Knicks record against the Celtics last year going into the playoffs. They were 0-4, and then they beat the Celtics in a best-of-7 series. So the regular season results don't always matter like that. I like this Cavs team. I'm not going to sit here and pound my chest for James Harden's resume or pick them to win the East when they have James Harden on the team. But I think this is a much better Cavs team with James Harden than with Darius Garland. Even the addition of Keon Ellis has gone underrated. Yeah. He's an awesome defensive stopper on the perimeter. So I think this is a pretty good Cavs team that I'm pretty excited about. I like how James Harden fits into them.
This is the same Sam Oshtry that told me Evan Mobley was a top 15 NBA player coming into the season.
He was coming into the season. He's had a rough year, injuries and all that. But I love Mobley. He was
which of his 2 rebounds last game was your favorite for the big man right there, the 7-footer?
That's a good team, man.
He's on a minutes restriction. It's not fair.
A good team, and James Harden with no pressure in Cleveland. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's starting to add up a little bit for me. But with that being said, let's hit rewind button and talk about last night's game between the Spurs and the Pistons. Who did you come away with more impressed, or whose last night result meant more to? Was it the fact that the Pistons ended up getting smoked at home against the Spurs when everybody was trying to build that game up, or the fact that the Spurs continue to win games against the best in the NBA? Sean, I'll start with you.
Yeah, for me, it's all about the Spurs last night. That I was incredibly impressed with Victor Wembanyama and the rest of that squad just absolutely not being bothered by the physicality. That the Pistons wanted to rough them up. They played their brand of basketball. They got into their chest. They got physical, and they just roll with the punches. Stephon Castle was off the charts excellent last night, ready for the Cade Cunningham battle, picking him up full court, being physical with him. This Spurs team scraps, man, and I don't think they've gotten enough credit with that. There is kind of this vibe of like the smoothness, what Victor Wembanyama is as an alien. This team gets down in battles as well. So that's what I took away from last night, is they're willing to get gritty and get in the dirt as well.
Sam?
This Pistons team continues to impress me. Even in a loss like that, where they shot 19% from 3, they were just awful from 3. Cade Cunningham, probably his worst game of the season, 5 for 26, 16 points, a few turnovers in there. So I didn't take too much away, like, oh, I'm worried about the Pistons now. It was an impressive Spurs win. I still don't think the Spurs are contenders because of the precedent that NBA history shows, where you need some playoff experience from your young guys, at least some. But this Pistons team, I mean, they get into a fight every single game. They just are all dogs, and they're so tough. Like their shooting might hurt them, and their lack of secondary creation other than Cade might hurt them in the playoffs. But they are so physically tough. They're going to wear out any team. I've been so impressed with the Pistons over the last few months.
Well, I'll tell you what, the Spurs are now 10-1 to win it all. We know what they've been able to do against Oklahoma. I think they're 4-1.
Earn your ticket if you're going to do that. Just give me the money instead.
No, I got it. I have a 15-1 ticket. I got a 15-1. I got plus.
Not happening. It's never happened in NBA history.
Hey, look. Everyone continues to tell me it's about the teams. Like you just threw that stat out. Sean threw that stat out. What against the best teams in the East? They're 1-8. Blah blah blah. All right. Well, let's look at the damn teams that are at the top of the leagues and how the Spurs have beat them every single time. And then what? They're not gonna do that come playoff time. It's about matchups. I'm not trying to say that Like, I'm not trying to say Oklahoma City's not getting it done, but if OKC and the Spurs face off, I know who I'm taking.
It's not just matchups, it's experience too. Like Wemby, Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, none of these guys have played a single playoff game. It's just the playoffs are a different beast. The coverages that you see, the game-to-game adjustments, the physicality, it's just over a 2-week span. It's just a different beast. And you have to actually go through it to win it.
Wemby's a freak, man. Wemby's a game changer. I
He's
think
different.
he can go ahead and rip
There are
all
ways
that.
to stop him. There are coverages to stop him.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
There's not ways to stop him from impacting defensively, though.
Defensively, yeah. I mean, he's
insane.
ridiculous.
Like, he could have not scored a point last night and been the most valuable player in that game, straight up. It was unbelievable what he did defensively. And the other thing that I have big time respect about Wemby, he got the crap kicked out of him last night. Did not complain whatsoever. Just got up and fought that whole game. Like, getting knocked to the floor, getting tossed to the floor. He is hard nosed, dude. He
saved the All-Star game. He single-handedly saved the All-Star game. He got dunked on last night. Didn't care. Like, he goes up. I don't care. It's business, man. You want to posterize me? I love Wemby. I love watching the Spurs.
Last thing, I'm not taking anything away from Wemby, but last thing is that matchup mattered because the Pistons play a lot of guys who can't shoot. And when you have guys who can't shoot, Wemby can just sit in the middle lane and they can play this ghost coverage and you just don't have to kind of converge, or you can just converge on the lane. And that's what Wemby did. When you play the Thunder, they don't play any guys who can't shoot, even though they're not the best three-point shooting team. The Nuggets, all these other teams are going to have shooters everywhere, and it's easier to get Wemby away from the rim when you have shooters. So that was a not really easy, but it was an easier matchup for Wemby defensively. Not taking anything away from him, just pump the brakes on the Spurs, all right?
No, I'm not. I'm all in. 15-1. I got that ready to go.
Let it rip.
Yep, that's it. All right, great job. Fun 45 minutes, all things Sixers. Sixers wrap up. That's where we start. We end with a little bit of everything around the NBA. Again, shout out to Joel Embiid in the return and leading the charge. Of course, Maxey finished with 32, but JoJo, what he was able to do, hasn't played in 3 weeks, whatever it's been. 5 games, 27, 6, and 5. Just a great performance across the board. VJ, Tyrese, and Sixers found a way to win a game. Now 2 in a row. Let's keep it going. Back home on Thursday night. It's going to be a late one for us. 8:30 start against the Miami Heat at Xfinity Mobile Arena. Sean Barnard, you can find him on all things socials. And, of course, read him at Crossing Broad, DK Network. Sam Oshtry represents the Score. Make sure you check him out, Score Bet. I'm Sean Braceby, back on the Fanatic on Thursday, previewing the Sixers. And then, of course, we'll be back here on Sixers Wrap-Up Show on the postgame. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your night. I'm going to go put my daughter to bed. We'll talk to you. Peace.